2021 certainly had its ups and downs, didn't it? It's not like Newcastle, that though. Review of the year. Welcome back to another video on the channel, Newcastle fans. No Everton game, no Southampton game, so I thought I would jump on, as I was planning on anyway, and doing a review of 2021 of the calendar year rather than the season. Now, if you are new to the channel, please drop us a like, drop us a subscribe. I think I'm just pointing randomly to places, but yeah, make sure you give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram as well, Black and White Banter. Now, 2021. There's obviously one major moment that sums up the whole year that probably makes it one of the most historical years in our football club's history. But I'm going to go through each one individually first before we get to that monumental day in October. Right, let's just go straight for it. Game of the season. God, difficult question, isn't it? I mean, there's not many to pick from. There really isn't. That sums up, I think, in terms of football and goals and wins, especially, I think 2021 is one of the worst years I can remember as a Newcastle fan. Bearing in mind, this season, as we speak right now, we've only actually won one football match in the whole of the 21-22 season. So this isn't too difficult for me. Now, surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, because Eddie Howe's only won one game and the Burnley game was not that memorable, but it is going to be a game under Steve Bruce. My highlight game of the calendar year for 2021 has to be Leicester away in April. 4-2, we beat them. Now, anyone who might remember this game, Leicester were high-flying. They were just about to win an FA Cup. They had a fantastic season, as they have done now for 3 or 4 years, under their new ownership and Brendan Rodgers. And we went there. This was one of our more difficult games in the run-in. We were still chasing our tails to make sure that we stayed up after an awful season under Brucey Ball. And we went there and we absolutely smashed them. Totally out of the blue. I'm very good friends with a Leicester fan who might be watching this video now. He lives in Newcastle. Probably talks about Newcastle more than Leicester. He probably admit that himself. But we smashed them. Absolutely destroyed them. Callum Wilson ran riot. Almiron had a blinding game. Everybody on the pitch just made Leicester look like they were the team struggling in that game, and it was amazing. And somehow the game finished 4-2 and almost finished 4-3. But that would have been such an abomination if it had gone any more than 4-2, because they got 2 goals quite sort of late on, and it made the scoreline look a lot better for them than what it actually was. We should have probably won 5 or 6-0, but it was fantastic. There was some free-flowing football, great goals were scored, and it was just like, shit, has this actually happened under Bruce? We've been awful all season, and we have just battered one of the best teams in the league. So yeah, that's my standout game of 2021. As I'm going to ask for every question, please let us know in the comments what yours are. I want to know. Next question. Oh, player of the season. Now, of the year, sorry. That's a difficult one. Now, you've got your obvious players in the team, the go-tos, the Maximans, the Wilsons. But again, because they are made of glass, they've been very, very much in and out of the team. And don't forget, this season especially, I know Howe's in, and we're looking to play a little bit better. We played well against Man United the other night, but we are still not looking great, and we haven't looked great since Howe came in. Yes, his fixtures have been difficult, and that's what I'm gonna say for him. I'm not gonna jump the gun and say it's because of Howe that we're not playing well. But in terms of an outstanding player all year, I mean, you're looking for someone who's been consistent week in, week out. Defence, so I'm just going to rule out, I think that's the easiest way for me to get an answer. Goalkeepers. Dubravka hasn't played very much this season. Back end of last season, he was injured and Darlow played a lot. He was injured at the start of this season, so I'm not going to give it to Dubravka. Defenders, well, Lascelles has had an awful couple of years. Shah didn't really play under Bruce and has only just come back in the team. Manquillo's in and out. Richie, I haven't rated him at left back since he's been playing there. So there's no defenders for me. Fernandez, I would have said last season, but not anymore because he hasn't played. So that's half the year gone. So midfield, Shelby had an awful year under. It's difficult. It is difficult. Almiron's been quiet now for a couple of years, attacking wise. Yes, he works hard, but that's pretty much it in my opinion. So because he's done some important things for us, and him coming back at the back end of last season was so important to us staying up, I'm going to have to give it to the boy I've got such a soft spot for, Callum Wilson, up top. I have to. Yes, he's missed parts because of injury, but his goals when he eventually got back in the team under Bruce at the back end of last year, including that Leicester game I just talked about, was fantastic. And without him, we look a different team, and I'm devastated that he's injured, but luckily we might spend a bit of this tomorrow onwards. So Callum Wilson's my player of the year. He's a fantastic striker. It was a brilliant bit of business, and we just got to hope that these injuries don't keep happening. We're hearing that this one he's got against Man U is not as bad as we thought, but we just need to hope that it's not injury after injury after injury, because he could be one of our better number nines. He's our best number 9 in my opinion since probably Demba Ba. Obafemi Martins I had a soft spot for, but you never knew what to get with him. He was a box of tricks. Very unpredictable. But Callum Wilson, he's always on the last man. He knows where the goal is, that's for sure. And he's got a bit of pace, which I like in a striker. So he's my player of the season. Player of the year, sorry. What's next? Oh, how long have you got? How long have you fucking got? Biggest disappointment of the year. Oh, God, no, this one is difficult. This is one of them. And that sums up being a Newcastle fan, that the hardest question in these sorts of reviews is the one that's the negative question. Because that's the one that has so many outcomes, which is just, it just sums up the calendar year, the season, the decade. It's got to be a number of things for me. I think if I was to talk about performances where I was losing my shit, Brighton away last season, that was horrendous. I think on my season review for last year, I put that as the lowest point, when we got beat 3-0 at the Amex, when we were desperately fighting relegation against Brighton, and we just didn't show up. I thought we were down at that point. So that would be low point. But we did come back and stay up, so that would be lowest game, but things got better somehow. In terms of general disappointment, I think both transfer windows in the calendar year. January was an absolute shit show. Didn't sign anyone, and I don't think that's ever happened before. Not even a loan player came through the door. Not even a fucking loan player. Oh no, Willock. It was Willock in January. Sorry, I take that back. Willock. It was actually a good bit of business in the end. But both transfer windows were shocking. Absolutely shocking. Yes, we signed Willock in the summer permanently, but we waited and waited and waited. Bear in mind, we just stayed up. Some money needed to be spent. And did Mike actually put his hand in his pocket? No. Can you say it's because he was trying to sell a club? Well, you know, a business point of view, I get it. I get that argument. And we did sell up. So, whatever. But, yeah, transfer windows as a football fan alone, they were awful. Some of the worst I can remember in my lifetime, for just wanting to see some players come through the door to add to your Maximins and Wilsons and nobody coming in. And let's face it, Willock's been an absolute shit show since we brought him in permanently, so it's barely been a new signing. So it's got to be the transfer windows, I think. But what I'm going to give it to, for me, is Steve Bruce. And I know it's a very, very blasé answer, just a name of a person. But what he caused in the last year for me, and it's easy to forget about now with Eddie Howe in charge and the new takeover coming in and blah, blah, blah. But just, we were arguing amongst ourselves more than ever. And I know that's down to Ashley, I get that. But Bruce was having to go with us in press conferences. He was falling out with players with Matt Ritchie earlier in the year, if you remember that one, when he called him a coward. He was constantly battering us for criticising him. The journalists were having to go at us for wanting him out, even though we know as football fans, because we're not idiots, how bad we were. The stats were terrible. And then you see players like Joe Linton now suddenly playing like Pele, since Bruce has come and a decent manager's took him under his wing. And it's just, we were called idiots and made out to be some sort of football supporting monsters from the media because of our criticism of Steve Bruce. And the fact, this is what the main one that gets me, the fact that Steve Bruce came out an hour after losing his job, an hour. You know, normally people go on the holidays, take time to reflect, and then come back and say the piece because they'll do an interview for whoever. He took an hour to mention the words cabbage head and just get everyone on his sympathy wavelength, and it was just pathetic. So for me, my biggest disappointment of the year was Steve Bruce, just his name alone. He's taken that massive compensation check. We were worse defensively under him from Rafa. We definitely got worse defensively, which I'm not saying Eddie Howe's improved, by the way. I'm not, because we don't look much better so far. Well, Man United was a little bit better, but generally speaking, didn't get any better attacking. We got so much worse. Touches in the box, shots on goal. Players were playing out of position. Isaac Hayton was playing centre-back. I mean, you got with Fabian Schär on the bench. It was just pathetic. So he's my disappointment of the year. And to finish, the final question. Highlight of the year. Well, there's only one highlight of the year, Newcastle fans, isn't there? Remember that day outside St James's Park when the fucking takeover was completed. Get in. Newcastle become the richest club in the world, in the footballing world, after 14 awful years under Mike Ashley of stadium name changes, Sports Direct signs everywhere, managerial appointments, fucking Joe Kinnear, Steve McLaren, Dennis Wise overruling Kevin Keegan, YouTube videos getting watched for scouting players, bloody Lee Charnley, don't need to say anymore, what even is a Lee Charnley? All that gone in one decision on Sky Sports, and I still remember the day the takeover is officially completed. Oh my God, I went straight to St James's Park that night to celebrate with the masses, and it was fantastic. And let's just hope we can stay up this season, and that will be one of the most significant days in the history of our football club, because it's the January transfer window tomorrow. Who cares about New Year's Eve, New Year's Day? I'm all about January transfer window eve. I've forgotten about Christmas. It's all about when we can start spending that on the tune. And for me, that is just hopefully a day we look back on in years and years to come. Now, I've got no doubts. It's going to be a long old ball game. We're going to have to be very patient. It's not an overnight thing. But in 5 to 6 years' time, we will look back on 2021 as the year shit changed for Newcastle United. And that is my highlight of the year. And that's why I ask every single Newcastle fan tonight to raise a glass as you toast 2022 coming in to better things on the horizon and better things to come. We have hope, Newcastle fans, hope. And that is my highlight of the year, highlight of the decade, probably one of my highlights as a Newcastle fan of my lifetime, because it feels like most of it has been taken over by Mike Ashley. So I'm going to leave it on that one. As always, Newcastle fans, make sure you drop us a like and subscribe if you've liked the content getting churned out. Let me know your answers to every single question. And I hope you all have a fantastic new year. There's no football to look forward to for a good week. A fantastic new year. Let's hope we get lots of players in the door. And those brown ales and Jaeger bombs are flowing happily as we enter 2022. The new dawn for Newcastle United. Have a good one, Toon fans. Drink too much for me, and I'll catch up for a video soon.